Good morning. Welcome to Unity of Charlotte. I am Reverend Lisa Herklotz. I am co-minister with Reverend Jim Ernstsen, who's back there on the soundboard because we don't have a soundboard person today. So please be patient with us. We might have little weird glitches like this, but we will make it through. We do have our music back, so that's rather exciting. We just want to welcome everyone here. If you're here in person, if you're joining us on Zoom, we're so glad to have you joining us this Sunday morning to share in this message of light and love and presence. You might be watching us on YouTube afterwards. If you are, thanks for checking us out, and check out the website to find out more about Unity of Charlotte. We like to begin our service by speaking aloud together our mission statement. Our mission statement is our purpose for being. So please read together with me. Unity of Charlotte is the place where we nurture a deep and mature experience of God through the practice of unity principles. Simply put, we are here to love, grow, and serve. Do we have anyone here for the first time? Gently raise your hand and just let us welcome you with a warm applause. We're always happy to have people visiting us. If you're online and you're new for the first time and you want to get a little more information about Unity, we have a visitor's packet we can email to you. Just leave your information in the chat and we will get that packet to you. There's a lot of different ways to check out Unity, find out what we're about, and also what we have going on. We have a website. We have a newsletter that goes out weekly. You can sign up for that on the website. We have a Facebook page, an Instagram account, and we're on Bluesky. So if you're on social media, check us out there. We post what's going on here along with what we hope are enlightening and inspiring sharings. And we're also on YouTube, which is where we have our recorded Sunday services and also some short reels that our social media person puts together that are beautiful. Just 1 or 2 minutes of a snippet of an inspirational idea. So check that out on YouTube. And finally, if you're here in person, of course, we have our bulletin board. Check that out. We always have things posted there that we may not have a chance to announce in the service. I invite you now to join me in prayer. I invite you to gently close your eyes. And as you take a breath in, let your focus gently move from your head to your heart. It is in this space we join together to welcome and be open to the presence of Spirit, the light of God, and the power of the divine, which lives and moves within us. We remember now that we are the expressions of God. We are the expressions of love, of the divine in this world. And in a world where there are so many other acts of forgetfulness, acts of not remembering that we are one, so intimately interconnected, that this energy of light and love is what we are called to bring forth. So together we remember that we are the hands of God in action. We are the love of Spirit in our words and deeds. And we are the light of wisdom in our thoughts, our beliefs, and our choices. This is what brings peace to the world and peace to our hearts. And for this knowledge and this presence, we say thank you, thank you, thank you. And so it is. I invite you to gently keep your eyes closed as we move into a moment of silence. And in this silence, I invite you to speak aloud the name of a person or situation you would like to have us uplift in prayer together. Please speak those names now. Leaders, our world, unity. Marie. As we are joined in this silence, we affirm and claim the presence of Spirit already present and active in each one of these persons or situations, working in divine order to bring forth the good that will benefit all. And so it is. I invite you now to join me in saying our unity prayer of oneness. There is one presence and one power in my life and universe, God, the good, omnipotence. And just a quick reminder that unity believes in the power of prayer. It is what we have been founded on. And so we have a prayer box right outside the door. If you have a prayer request you would like to leave and go to our prayer team to pray over, fill out that prayer request. Doesn't matter what it's for and who it's for, or if you even know how to ask for it, just put that prayer request in, and the prayer team will uplift that for 30 days. After they have been praying on it, it will then go to Silent Unity, will be prayed on for another 30 days. And all prayers received are kept in the strictest of confidence. So I invite you to use that service. It's very powerful. I'd now like to invite Paulette up to read our daily word.
Today's daily word is release. I release old beliefs as I grow and evolve. So many things shape my beliefs over the years: my upbringing, family, history, education, friendships, and spiritual life, to name a few. As I go through life, I will have new experiences and meet all kinds of people. I may find old beliefs that once fit me no longer. Growing and deepening in spiritual understanding may mean releasing ways of thinking and no longer serve me. But I can do that and still honor the person I was, my background and my history. Releasing makes room in my mind and open my heart for the person I am becoming. Releasing my old beliefs readies me for a future of growth and evolution. Now look, I have just released you today from the fetters on your hands. See, the whole land is before you. Go wherever you think it good and right to go. And that's Jeremiah 40, verse 4. Thank you.
What we're going to talk about today is when two become one, moving mountains. This came to me, and it's not going to be any surprise to my pub theology folks, because we've talked about this for about a month now. We're going to explore a little bit about this idea of moving mountains. It shows up in Matthew, it shows up in Luke, it also shows up in the Gospel of Thomas, and that's what we were talking about. Because within pub theology, we're talking about some of the Gnostic Gospels and how they differ from the canon that was brought forth in the Bible, in the New Testament. So this came about with all that discussion, as well as what is Lent. So we're going to talk about Lent, but we're going to talk about this process as well, moving mountains. So you see that picture right there reminds me of Yosemite, which is one of my favorite spots in the world, but it is about moving mountains. Reverend Lisa so eloquently stole a little my thunder this morning as she talked about the 40 days of Lent, that period of time that we use for preparation. We use that for our inner preparation, our inner examination of what's going on in our lives. And I ask everyone here, I ask everyone in this, and I ask those folks at home as well, how many people grew up, or even now, can consider that Lent is about giving up something? Yeah, that's such a common thing. It's such a common thing that we bring it with us whenever. But we're going to reframe that idea. I mean, I think of in high school, I remember my Catholic friends And it was the big discussion at the lunch table. What were you going to give up? What were you going to give up for Lent? You know, and the big thing to give up for Lent, the hardest thing for most people was what? Chocolate. Oh, yes. I'm giving up chocolate for 40 days. You know, how could things get any worse, right? So that's what my youth taught me about Lent. But we're going to go above and beyond. We're going to reframe that. Lent is not about subtraction, is what we're saying. It's not about giving up. But we're going to treat it as a two-part thing. It is a release of something within our lives. But what if it's about release and reimagining? And that's what, I'm not going to go off camera, that's what that little booklet was about this week. It talked about release, and then the next page was about reimagining. And I'm borrowing heavily from that book in this talk today, but that's what we're talking about as well. In unity theology, Lent is the season for alignment, or maybe even realignment. It's a time of letting go of false identities that we might be holding on to, hanging on to, that we learned in our youth and just has stuck with us. It's about replacing it with something that's more expansive. So this thing in our life was constricting us as we went along our lives. And now we're taking that and reimagining what is possible within our world that can make our lives so much better. One of the deepest identities that we might have, well, let me pose it as a question. What do you believe one of the deepest and hard-fought identities that we have within this world? What do you think?
Male or female?
Gender it is. It is. We think of ourselves as either male or female. Anything else? Occupations is one thing. Go bigger. Go bigger. Good and bad is a duality that we're going to talk about. Absolutely. It is that we're mortal. Isn't that an identity that we hang on to? Our mortality is a limitation that we believe with our heart and soul. It limits us, is what I'm saying. That is something that we can realign with as well. That deep identity that we have, it is that belief in that we are merely mortal. Merely mortal. Instead, in A Course in Miracles, there is, and some of you who are A Course in Miracles students will see this and know this as well. Lesson 199 in the workbook, I am not a body, I am free, for I am still as God created me. Who remembers that? I know we've got a few Course in Miracles students. I am not a body. This is the Course retraining its students to let go of that limitation within their lives. And that's what the Course is a retraining and letting go of those things that limit us within this life. When we talk about this letting go of our mortality, this is, I release my mortality. And remember, we're pairing this with a release and a reimagining, but I release my mortality is the first thing that I have to do, which begs the question, how? How do I release that limitation in my mind of my mortality? Well, it's not about denying that I have a body, because we all do, right? You. We have the body that we travel through this world in for some 80, 90 years, whatever it is. We're not denying that. We're not bypassing the grief and the sorrow of our world and this physicalness that we live in. We're not doing that metaphysical bypass, and we're not pretending that we don't experience limitation in the physical sense. Because we talk about spiritual as well, which is unlimited, but we're not pretending that we don't experience physical limitation either. Instead of all these things, we are releasing our identification with limitation. We're releasing that idea. We're releasing the story that says, this is all there is. This thing that I travel with throughout my life, this bag of skin and bones, that's all there is, that my life is nothing more than simply a struggle from morning until night. I release that. I also release the belief that disappointment defines me and my life. Again, this is the first half. These are the things I'm releasing with my image of mortality. When we think of mortality within the unity movement, and you know this, you've heard this from me, you've heard this from Reverend Lisa, we think metaphysically. We go beyond the physical. We think metaphysically. So mortality is not about the idea of dying necessarily. It's not about the idea of working with this body, like I said earlier. But it is about feeling separate. This is what we're talking about. This is the metaphysical mortality that we're focused on. That we're separate, that we're fragile, that we're cut off. And when I say cut off, this is the separation from our divinity, the separation from our own Christ nature, our separation from each other in helping each other through this world as well. That's part of the release as well. So here's where we transition. Here's where we transition from our mortality into that reimagining piece of things as well. Because we're going to talk about, I imagine the eternal. I imagine the eternal. Within unity, imagination is one of our 12 powers. Charles Fillmore wrote many years ago about the 12 powers or faculties that we as humans have. Imagination is one of those that is God-given. You got it. You don't have to earn it. You don't have to discover it, or maybe you do have to discover it, but it's there. That's one of those 12 things. And imagination is one of those 12 things. And imagination, when Charles Fillmore is talking about it, he's talking about imagination from the divine, the spiritual attribute of imagination. He's not talking about, putting your feet up on the sofa and daydreaming. That's not necessarily, although that could be a good thing. I've had some ideas with my feet up on the sofa. But it's not about daydreaming necessarily. It's about the creative perception that we have in this world. That's what imagination is. And you inherited that imagination from the divine. That's the creation of this world, of this universe, is that you were created with imagination. It is saying that to reimagine is to see it more clearly or more truly. Imagination is to be able to see a thing more clearly or more truly. Do you see what I'm talking about? Rather than what you were told to think about a thing, it is discovering, using your imagination, the spiritual laws, the spiritual things in this world. That's what we're seeing more truly. The eternal is not necessarily about time in the way we're talking about here today. It's not just about an endless loop of time. It's more about a divine quality within our lives. Think of eternal or the eternity as a quality that is from the divine, It is that presence in our world. That's what we're talking about. It is an unbroken connection that we have and talk about within our world. That's the eternal, an unbroken connection with our Christness. So let's do this. Let's see this release and reimagining in terms of some of the scriptures in the New Testament and beyond. Because when we talk about moving mountains, we're talking about not only those scriptures within at least two of the Gospels in the New Testament, but we're also talking about that Gospel of Matthew, which is, if you open your Bible and look for the Gospel of Thomas, you're not going to find it, right? We know that. This is one of those Gospels that showed up. Well, I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take a step back. So, moving mountains. Instead, moving mountains, the traditional way that we read this is from the Gospel of Matthew. From the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus speaks of faith moving mountains, right? Faith, your faith can move mountains. And you have faith the size of what? The size of a mustard seed, which from Matthew and Luke is all you got to do is have a little tiny bit of faith and you can move that mountain from here to there. Who has moved a mountain lately? Have you? A physical mountain. I guess I should have said a physical mountain. So what we're talking about here is we're not talking about the Rockies. We're not talking about the Smoky Mountains. We are talking instead of that metaphysical mountain, which I'm sure is what you meant. Yes, absolutely. So Jesus talked about moving mountains. Traditionally, this is about overcoming obstacles within our lives. But metaphysically, we're talking about what is a mountain? What is that mountain signifying in our lives? And I'm sure those folks who raised their hand are talking about those mountains are a state of consciousness. A state of consciousness within their lives. We think of the stories of the Bible as metaphysical as well. They may be teaching in terms of literal things, places, and people, but we apply them to our lives. We think of Moses going up into the mountain. He went up into Mount Sinai to meet God, right? That is a very literal sense, but we know that that mountain is signifying something else to us in our lives. Jesus presents his most important ideas in his ministry during the Sermon on the Mount. This is teaching from that mountain as well, the Sermon on the Mount. So that mountain is an expanded consciousness as well. Literally, that mountain is solid, unmovable. But metaphysically, we're talking about an entrenched belief within our lives. What is it that we're stuck with? What is it that we can't let go of? That's the mountain in our lives. And maybe it's fear. Maybe it is mortality. Maybe that's the thing that has us stuck in this world. Again, we ask ourselves the question, how do we move that mountain? How do we move that thing? Let's go beyond, I guess is what I'm saying. Let's go beyond Matthew. Let's go beyond Luke in terms of that mustard seed. And let's look at the Gnostic gospel of Thomas and how it changes how we think of this process just a little tiny bit. The Gospel of Thomas. And moving ahead a little bit, he says, when the two become one. Just think about that for a second. When the two become one. So the Gospel of Thomas is part of that Nag Hammadi discovery in the desert of 1945. They found some scrolls. Part of that was the Gospel of Thomas. The Gospel of Thomas is, I believe, and it's in this book right here. I'm not going to go off camera. Julie shared that book with me, and I thank her for that. I think it's 114 sayings. It's 114 quotes is the Gospel of Thomas. So it's different. It's different from the 4 Gospels in the New Testament. It doesn't have stories. It doesn't have that idea of, well, let's just call it a story. It doesn't have that story. Instead, these are quotes, a series of 114 quotes. And many of these 114, if not the majority of them, match to a great extent what's in those other 4 Gospels. So it's good in terms of, hey, we have a separate proof to what is written in those 4 other Gospels, but they're a little bit different. And know that they're a little bit different, and know that the Gospel of Thomas was excluded for a reason in the canon of the New Testament because of the tweaks that he threw in there, that he used. So in Matthew, we had the gospel talking about faith the size of a mustard seed will move that mountain. In the Gospel of Thomas, this is saying number 106. See if you can pick out the difference. When you make the two one, you will say to the mountain, move, and it will move. Sounds familiar, right? But not exactly. We're not talking about faith anymore. We're not talking about mustard seeds anymore. But we're talking about when you make the two one. When you make the two one. Matthew emphasizes faith. Thomas emphasizes what? Imagination, sorta. Confidence is another thing, yes. Oneness, integration, bringing something together. You've got two things out there. What are you doing with them? You're making them one. When you make the two one, what does that mean? What does that mean? What was Thomas trying to tell us? Many think, and this is part of what we were talking about on Thursday of last week in pub theology, many people believe that the Gnostic Gospels have a higher, what's the term, Julie? A higher mystery that we are to learn from. These are the Gnostics talking to us over time, over 2,000 years, right? And this is part of it. This is the mystery. When you make the two one, what does that mean? When you make the two one, it's about co-creation within our lives. It's about co-creation. It's about the ability, yes, it is about the ability to move that mountain. But how do you do it? It's bringing together the two into one. It's about not relying on your dualistic thinking in this world. It's becoming non-dualistic. I know we're getting kind of heavy in philosophy here. It's that becoming non-dualistic within our world. It's the head and the heart. And if we keep those separate, if we're all head and no heart, that's a problem, right? If we're all heart and no head, that's probably a problem as well. Our thoughts and our feelings, bringing those together is what Thomas is talking about. It's the inner and the outer, the yin and the yang. It is the humanity and the divinity that we are that needs to be brought together for us to move those metaphysical mountains. When the two become one. When we stay in that duality within our lives, we suffer because we're divided. We suffer. We strain and we argue with reality. And we might even be moving instead into integration and non-duality. That's the trick. This is what Thomas is saying is the first step. The first step is integration. It doesn't mean, and I believe this, heart and soul, this makes so much more sense to me than Matthew, because I believe that this integration is key to my life. It's not about, I don't have enough faith, I just got to try harder. I've tried. It's not about trying harder. It's about integration. It's about that integration. What if that mountain wasn't out there that we were moving? What if that struggle is the space between our head and heart? What if that's the struggle? And the moving them together is the direction that we're headed. This is living non-dualistic within our world. When we release our mortality, and this is where we came with the release and the reimagining, when we release that mortality, and maybe that our mortality is the mountain in our lives, maybe not, but maybe it's something else, maybe that release and that reclaiming, that reimagining our eternal selves, our eternity within our lives, is the uniting of our head and heart and all the other things I talked about into oneness, into our non-dualism. That's where we're meant to be. That's where we're unlimited. Spiritually unlimited is in that oneness, in that non-dualism. This is where we live in an expanded consciousness. And maybe from there we can see each and every one of our struggles that we work from the eternal instead of the temporary. Maybe that immovable thing in our lives becomes simply part of the landscape of our becoming, our expanding, our reimagining. When those two become one, that's the higher Gnostic mystery that we're talking about. That's our Christ nature. That's our divinity. Because we are. You are divine by nature. Know that I love you. I bless you. I appreciate each and every one of you here in person and on Zoom as well. And I behold the divine. Let me re-say that. I see the divine in each and every of the eyes I look into here today. I see the divine in you. Namaste. Let's move into meditation. As we take that time, we settle into our seat. We find a place for our hands. We close our eyes if that feels right. Or you can soften your gaze and gently look at that candle on the screen. And begin by breathing. This act of breathing focuses us into that oneness. If you're like me, sometimes I get stuck in my head. This breathing, this meditation practice brings together my head and my heart. I watch my breath. If it's in my chest, if it's in my belly, if it's the feel of my cool air entering in through my nostrils, that assists me in this focus. With each exhale, I release a little deeper into this oneness. This process releases the thoughts as well that stream through my mind. I'm letting go. And it allows me to focus on that spiritual quality of oneness within my life. That focus allows me to move into that consciousness that becomes one of anticipation. As I begin this process, as I close my eyes, as I focus on my breath, there is an expectation as I move into that oneness. I begin to recognize that feeling, head and heart. This becomes my spiritual reality. I take another breath and I move a little deeper. I feel that oneness. I allow it to expand and include everyone in this room. I bless myself and all those in this world. As we take the next minute or two in silence. Maybe take another breath in, let it out with a sigh. Start to notice things around you once again, expanding, hearing, feeling, and knowing, until ultimately you're opening your eyes once again, seeing this room around us. Knowing that it is so. Namaste.
Well, this is the time we get to bring two into one and experience the power of circulation and giving and receiving. And I just want to say how grateful I am for for each and every gift you bring. Your very presence here is a gift, but all the gifts of donations that we receive are how Unity of Charlotte gets to continue to be here, to share this message of light in a world that so much needs this message of light. So I would invite you, there's many ways to consistently give, as you can see on that slide. We'll have the QR codes up if you need to use those in a moment. But first, I'd like to invite you to hold your offering in between your hands. If you are giving online or give during the week, imagine that gift in your hands as we say this abundance blessing together. Joyously, I give this gift, knowing the divine presence blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. We are light, love, power, and presence. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.